night I lay in bed and run the roads inside my head, trying to return to where I'm from. Lying on my crooked back, I look back on my crooked path. Winding my way back now just seems dumb. I get blue like Colorado, I hang down like those Rocky Mountain skies. In the valley, oh, why do I go? Dreaming on the mountains I should climb.
So you're in Texas. So have you just recently moved back to Texas?
Yeah, we moved like around Christmas, something like that, just 6 weeks ago, whatever. I've lost track of time, something like that.
I know that feeling.
Nashville for like 10 years, and we just moved back.
Right.
Like 2 blocks where I grew up. So it's been
right.
great.
It's interesting because you kind of reference a lot of growing up things in your songs on the album. So is that part of why you moved back there, or what's going through your head as far as that goes?
I mean, yeah, it definitely inspires me. And then there's just like, you miss your mom and your dad and the places you're from and the people you know. And I've got a lot of good friends in Nashville, but nobody's as helpful as Nana and Opa,
Sure.
I got kiddos, so I want them to be raised the way I was raised, around the people I was raised around.
So the album just came out. What was it, last Friday? Did you do anything exciting for that?
Yeah. I was in Key West, Florida, little island down there, and
right.
I was playing at a festival, and I went and had a meal by myself, and I treated myself really nice with some like basically raw tuna, and I ate with strangers, some old
right.
ladies, and they weren't old. They're just older than me. Right. If they watch this, they'll be like, "Hey, you bastard!" Just some sweet ladies I met, and we hung out and had a couple of drinks, and that was it. I just took a couple hours to myself, walked around the boardwalk. Then I played a little bit of music that night, and then we all went to a karaoke bar. So,
cool. So that's interesting. Wouldn't have expected Key West to be the place where you're going to do your kind of album release thing. So what brought that on? How did you end up there?
I've got some friends in the Texas music scene that were like, "You got to get on this thing." So I did. And, they were gracious. I don't know why the festival let me on. I feel like we hoodwinked them, but they let us on. It was a good deal. We had a good time, and they helped us celebrate. And so I think, I sang in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people that night. It's my guess. I'm not good at numbers, but it felt really good.
Cool. And were you playing with a band, or is it solo?
That night I was playing with a band. I think I did a Bruce Springsteen cover. I just played like one song. It was like, that was fun. Let's go party.
Good idea. Excellent. Yeah. So my understanding is that the album itself, Run Like a Bull, was recorded in 4 days, according to the press that's come out about it. Yeah. I'm just kind of curious as to what those 4 days were like for you. Was it very hectic? Was it kind of laid back? What was the vibe?
It's not hectic, but it's intense. I think it's weird. It's a combination because it is laid back. I made it with some friends of mine that I really trust. And so they kind of give me space to do whatever I'm going to do, and I trust them, and we go for it. But it's also very intense. It's, it's not the lightest material.
Right.
So you really want to like approach it with kind of the right spirit. And so, to stay in that frame of mind, because I wouldn't ever call it a heavy record, but like there's a weight to it. There's some seriousness to stay in that frame of mind. It requires you to kind of be emotionally in tune. So I'll give you that anyway. So.
Right. And I'm guessing you had to be more prepared going in than you would be if you're going to spend a month or so putting a record together. So what did you do to prepare to get that thing done in the amount of time you did?
I've been playing these songs for a while, some of them. So some of them I started writing in 2016, and some of them I wrote just a few months before. And so I've just been kind of living in those songs because I was off work playing shows because of COVID or whatever. And so I was just sitting around the house playing those songs anyway. So they were just all there. I didn't have to think about getting ready because I was just living in them. And I just called Nielsen Hubbard and said, "Let's make a record." And he said, "Let's do it." And it wasn't long till we just made it. So I never got a chance to kind of get out of the songs to have to worry about preparing. Just went in and played them.
Gotcha. And when you were writing these
Yeah.
songs, I assume that must have been when you were still living in Nashville. So what was there something that drove you to write these particular songs, or were they just songs that kind of collected over the months or year or whatever?
I mean, there's a theme that's running through them, I think. It's a loose theme, but there's some stuff about going home in there for sure.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of like confessional stuff or whatever. That's what somebody else called it. I don't know if that's the word I would use.
Right.
I was looking at Augustine's Confessions at some point and thinking like, I probably need to do that for myself. And so this is my version of that.
Okay.
A little, in some ways, and in some ways it's just a plea to go home, and in some ways it's a punch in myself, reminding myself to go have fun and smile too.
I give it all I got, I give it all I got, I give it everything I ever had. I give it all I got, I give it all I got, I give it everything I ever had. I ain't holding nothing back. I give it all I got, give it everything I ever had.
I think about that stuff a lot, whatever's happening around me, and I'm sure it bleeds in, but that stuff is more about like a cosmic truth or whatever, however you want to say it. I could get more direct, but like to let you have the room to make your decisions too.
Very good. And there's also a track called, let's see, which one was I wanted to ask you about? Oh, Let's Go Crazy, which is kind of all about, I just saw a movie, it took place in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where this man was taking care of his kids and having to take them out of the dangerous, the thing back in the 60s. Yeah. And it's a parental thing, I guess, that, you got to take care of your kids and move. So is that what you were kind of thinking of?
Yeah. I got 3 little babies in a 2-bed ranch. Try to do right when I think I can, but I ain't gonna let them down. And oh baby, let's go crazy. Leave this town with all our babies. Raise them like my mama raised me. Heard you in the kitchen praying. It ain't leaving, gonna save us. This ain't who we are. If it ain't tough, baby, it ain't ours. Let's load our shit up in our car and oh baby, let's go crazy.
Some of that song is literal, or a lot of it is literal, but the spirit of it is like also just kind of like there's a lot of tension built up in me over the last 10 years of just wanting to get back to my country, and the pace and the values that I'd give them, that I appreciate. Just like anybody, it's like, it's good to be in the city, but I'm not a city boy. I like cities quite a bit. But on the other hand, it was like, we lived in this cool little neighborhood around the block from our friends, but for some reason we got like the worst pick of neighbors, and they decided to do a bunch of stupid stuff. And so there was a lot of, I don't know. The neighbor came out one day and his wife was covered in blood, and stuff like that. And you're just like, I don't know what's going on. You call the cops. I was on the road, and I was on the road. I think I was in Atlanta, and then it happened again in Charleston, North Carolina, South Carolina, wherever the heck that is. There were gunshots and all this going on, but they were right outside the window. My wife was, the kids are on the floor, that kind of thing. It's like,
right. Nope, that's not what you want.
No, I don't mind if the neighbor's dealing pot, but he was into something else. He was heavy hitting, he wasn't very good at it, judging by his car.
Right.
That wasn't working out for him.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I moved here from Rochester, New York, up near Toronto there. Lived in the city, and we had a similar neighbor across the street from us, so I can relate.
Yeah. It's funny because there's some things you just acclimate to, because I also don't want to be like, oh, the city's terrible. But like, it's weird what we got used to that, I don't think you should get used to.
No, you got to draw a line somewhere. Now, speaking of abuse and violence and all that, I have to ask you about I Won't Stop, because it's probably one of the most horrific songs I've ever heard in my life.
Cheers, thank you. Somebody else was saying, somebody wrote a review and they were like, in the personally confessional, it won't stop. And I was like, I've never killed anybody.
I hope not, but I do have to ask you what drove you to write that and what frame of mind you were.
That sound you hear, you'll never hear again. That's the sound a knife makes when it breaks skin. You got a couple minutes for the cold sets in. Now's the time to pray if you believe in him.
Oh, I don't know. Probably like that Augustine confession stuff. Like,
Right.
Don't ever let me paint my sins as lighter than they are. You know, I obviously haven't killed. Well, you don't know me, but I'll tell you, I haven't killed anybody. But I mean, I've definitely had hate in my heart, just like anybody else. So,
Right.
it's also like a really interesting thing to just write. You know, I don't know why Stephen King writing all those weird things. You know?
That's true.
I don't know why I wrote it. I just wrote it, and I tried to make it pretty.
Right.
You know, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of metaphors in there, and you know, things like that too. So.
Yeah, I think a writer like Stephen King can get away with stuff like that because people assume he's just making stuff up. Whereas you hear somebody, a singer-songwriter like yourself, and it's like they're always writing from the heart, experience, and all that stuff. And then when you hear that, you're like, oh.
Yeah, but it's funny because I will tell people this is like a very literal record that's very, very personal, and I didn't pull any punches, and here I am. And then if you hear that, you go, "Is this you?" And it's like, "Man, it's you too." Like, yeah, it's me and it's you. So
Yep.
Maybe I shouldn't explain the songs too much, but you know how it is.
Do you get people coming up and asking you about them?
About songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. It's funny, the songs that are like the most pointed, like that one, and there's a few others, like they just zoom by people. People don't ever realize that what they're about. The ones that I'm worried about never get asked about. So
That's
kind
of strange. I mentioned the film before, and you mentioned Sling Blade and Wild sometimes. So maybe you can just give me a little background on that and your interest in that film or films or whatever.
You remember that band, that movie Sling Blade? When I get to heaven, that's the sound we'll make. If it ain't good, call law. We done paid all the fines. We got the judge in the pocket singing Thunderbird Wine.
Yeah, you know how cool Dwight Yoakam was in that. He was like the worst character in the world.
That is a fact.
At the same time, you wanted to be in that band. You know, just getting drunk on the back porch, yelling at the neighbors. You know, I'd like to be in that band. And then there's like I kind of draw a line to Billy Joe Shaver at the end of that, because like, this is going to sound demeaning to Billy Joe Shaver, which I would never mean to be. But Billy Joe Shaver's band kind of was that band. If that band was really good, you know what I mean? They're just like, here it is. If you don't like it, get the hell out. You know, call the cops. All right, I'm friends with the judge. You know,
right.
So
friends with the judge.
It's just fun.
And you have a few backing vocalists. There's one named Caroline Spence who's on This Town. So maybe you can fill me in on what's going on with that, because I notice there's a lot of interstates and highways and roads involved in your writing these days.
Between the crosses and the ditches and the tolls that make us pay. This busy people bitching, every lane is time to play. If there was a shortcut, don't you think you'd call it the way? I know my way around this town. I know my way around this town.
Who knows what we were writing about? I don't know how we wrote that, but she's been a great friend of mine in Nashville. Just an encouraging person to make music with from time to time. She's a great writer. So we just sat down and started writing a song. There's a buddy of mine. I used to deliver air conditioners in Amarillo, Texas. I just drive a little box truck, and the guy that worked in the sales department, there were only 3 of us, but the guy that You still there? This thing. There it is. He used to. I remember coming in to work one day, and I was like, what did I say? I was late or something. I was like, I'm sorry, I was late. I tried to take a shortcut.
Right.
He's like, there's no such thing. If it was a shortcut, they'd just call it the way.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, you're not wrong.
That is something to think about.
Yeah.
But in the song, well, the dog runs away, the house burns down. I mean, it's classic country material as well. I mean,
oh yeah, some of that's my wife's life. Like we were driving around her hometown, and she was like, "Well, there's where my dog ran away, and this and that." And then, you know, she was like, at some point, her dad had told her that the dog went to live with the farm. You know,
right? Yeah.
And so all that's kind of chucked up in there too. Like all those, we all had the same experience and wildly different experiences at the same time. But in a record that's about going home, it's like maybe that's the opposite end of it. It's like, now you're home, now what? You know?
Yeah. Well, so now you are home.
Not
now
that,
what? That's
yeah.
a good question, because you're talking about
well,
being in Nashville.
I said that record's about going home.
Yeah. So now you got there. How do you do you plan on staying there for a while? How is that going to affect your music making, do you think? I
don't plan on anything. Just trying to let the breeze take me where it wants to. But I live 2 blocks from my parents. It couldn't be better right now. And
that's cool. Yeah.
I'm writing a lot, and I feel inspired to write. I feel free to write. I don't feel like I have to write for, like, you know, sometimes when you're writing, you think, what could happen to this song? And that's not good. You know, for me, might be for the next guy, but I just want to write with no expectation for the song or why I'm doing it. And so I feel a lot of freedom, and some of that's because of the literal space. I mean, there's just flat and wide open out here. And then some of it's because, you know, there's no industry next door. Right. And I would like to take this chance to retract my statement that the entire record is about moving home, because it's only kind of sort of maybe that way.
Okay. Retraction accepted.
But it still is, though.
Of course. All right. And I noticed you did a cover of a 9 Inch Nails tune about a year ago or so.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. What was the reaction to that from your fan base?
Head like a hole, black is your soul. I'd rather die than give you control. Head like a hole, black is your soul. I'd rather die than give you control.
There was this one guy on YouTube that told me it was the worst thing he'd ever heard, and I was so happy that he did. He basically, you know, he said something really mean. It was great, because I clicked on his profile, and he's one of these. He's like a, you know, super metalhead guy.
Right.
Just, he's still living in that moment. He's like, "How dare you touch this?" And this is like Lars from Sweden, and I'm like, or whatever his name was. It's like, I just told him, keep it up. I mean, I agree with you. I shouldn't be doing this, but I am. Now what? So,
now what? Exactly.
Yeah. So he's justified in feeling that way. That's
sure.
crazy.
What the heck? You know, everybody's got their own opinion.
Yeah. I think that's what the song is. He should be yelling at me. Yell at me if you want to. I'm not hurt.
All right.
He's the only one that didn't like it, though.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. You're always going to get somebody. It's divisive days, and from outside of the states, it looks even probably worse from here, from outside. But
yeah,
I don't know if it's actually that way or not, because you know,
I don't know. It feels good. It feels good in my house. You can come on over here and hang out.
There you go.
You know,
yeah, that's what you want.
We're pretty free right here. We're doing what we want.
Nice. So are you feeling free to tour around, or are you just kind of doing isolated shows? What's the?
I mean, I'm living in Texas, so I could do whatever I want.
Right.
You know, and it's pretty good. You know, and I think we all know the things we know now. So when you're calculating your risk, it's like, well, what's riskier? Not feeding your family, or getting a cold. You know, it's like, I gotta feed my family, so I'm not gonna sweat it.
All right.
You know.
Very good.
We also try to be responsible. And, you know,
sure.
I don't go to the nursing home or anything.
Right. Fair enough.
You know?
So you thinking about the next record already or not?
Yeah, I was supposed to do pre-production, which we don't usually do pre-production, so it's kind of exciting. that was supposed to be today, but there's a big storm moving across the country. So I had my car with me in Florida because I toured on the way to Florida, then went to that festival, and I was going to go up to Nashville, which is just, good drive north of there, and then head home after that. But I decided I didn't want to get snowed in or
Now I saw the
whatever.
photos of Nashville in the snowstorm. It's like, whoa, that's pretty heavy for Nashville.
Yeah, I think it's about to happen again. It said it was going to flood and then freeze. So I drove 19 hours yesterday and then just finished off today.
Cool.
So,
all right. Sounds like you got it going on.
Yeah, we're writing that new record though. I'm writing it, and I'll get together with my friends the next couple months and see what it feels like. It'd be great. Excellent.
Well, thank you for spending time talking to me. I appreciate it.
And yeah.
Enjoyed the record immensely. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks for letting me know from around the world. That's pretty cool.
No sweat. Have a good day.
Yeah. All right. Be safe.
See you. Bye.